How's it going, Internet? It's your old mates, Strontium Dingo.
And Bertrand.
Welcome to a special episode of Dingo Ate My Game, which, and I want to be clear about this, is not a game review. It's more of an exploration of the game and certain questions and vibes that it gave me. It also includes, for the first time ever on the channel, an interview with a game dev. So join us as we take a look at an indie game that has filled me with philosophical questions, a game that I've wanted for years and didn't even realise, a game that
is clearly named in the title of this video, so you don't need to give it a big intro.
You're not my real mum and I can do what I want. Ladies and or gentlemen and or others, I don't know how this works now, I give you Outback Survival. Outback Survival is, unsurprisingly, a survival game which reimagines this great land of Australia as an apocalyptic wasteland. Now, at first glance, it might not seem very apocalyptic due to the abundance of plants, but it takes place after a catastrophic event which has decimated the population, so
exactly 9 out of 10 people survived?
What?
That's what decimated literally means. Removal of 1/10.
Shut up, nerd. Nobody cares. Outback Survival takes place after a catastrophic event which has decimated
I hate you.
the population of Australia. As a result, there are only 3 major parts of the national infrastructure left: roads, bridges, and cities. Because nature has essentially reclaimed Australia, the player runs around avoiding snakes and other Aussie wildlife, just like in real life, while trying to deal with hunger, thirst, and the need for shelter, also just like in real life.
So who are all of these red flannel shirted people running around then?
I'm glad you brought that up, Bertrand, because that brings up the very first philosophical question that this game raised for me. They're rednecks, the human roaming enemy in the game.
Then why aren't they on their farms then?
What?
You see, Dingo, the term redneck refers to people who work on their farms so much during the daytime that...
Will you please stop trying to teach me things? Look, that's what the dev calls them. His world, his rules, his names. The end.
But...
The end.
This is going to be a short video if that's the end.
Right, can you go and annoy someone else, please, for a bit?
I'm going to leave now.
Grab us a beer first, will you, buddy?
No!
Jerk. So, as I was saying about rednecks, they're the human enemy in the game. Now, as I say this next bit, I want to make it 100% clear that I'm not trying to bring politics into a game that's not about politics. I just found the issue interesting. Okay, are we cool? Don't answer me, I can't hear you. My racial heritage includes being a black fella, which is, of course, completely normally irrelevant to this channel, but I only mention it because with Outback Survival, I found it weird, not wrong or unethical or anything like that, just weird, that here we have a situation, a disaster where nature survives and most of mankind doesn't, where it's fair to say that blackfellas, at least the country mobs, would thrive. Not so much the cityfied ones as me, but the ones that still live on the land or maybe even with it, as opposed to against it like most of society does, which again includes me. So I thought, why aren't we in the game then? I thought maybe it's because you can't just release a game where your main enemies are all blackfellas because we're supposed to be inclusive in society, but somehow that logic has resulted here in blackfellas being represented less in general because you can't just release a game where your main enemies are all blackfellas because we're supposed to be inclusive in society. And oh, look at that, we're trapped in a vicious cycle. The actual answer is so much simpler and really doesn't make me look like a very nice person. There are blackfellas in this game. Specifically, some of the rednecks are blackfellas. The rednecks are actually amazingly diverse because not all rednecks are white. Just like in real life. It's almost like you don't magically get secret agriculture knowledge just because you have Aboriginal blood. If I haven't made this perfectly obvious, those thought patterns reflect on me and not the game. Like I said, it's not, don't at me? Is that right? So, yeah, that was lazy thinking on my behalf. Also, before this game, I thought redneck meant bigoted instead of just hick, hillbilly, or bumpkin. That was lazy thinking as well. It basically just means rural, and that's all. Hashtag not all farmers, I guess. But enough about me and how I'm a terrible person who sometimes opens cans of worms and then almost immediately closes them again. Let's get back to the game. When most people hear the word outback, they think of wide, dusty plains, but that's not technically correct. Outback basically just means remote, rural... Man, Australians have weird accents. Remote, rural area. So it includes the Aussie bush. On the off chance that a non-Aussie is watching this, the bush in Aussie slang just means forested areas. Given that nature has essentially retaken Australia in Outback Survival, that means that the whole country technically qualifies as Outback. So I apparently also didn't know what Outback meant before I played this game, and I genuinely appreciate the game making me want to learn more about what certain words mean.
I thought you didn't want to learn anything.
Yeah, and I also thought I told you to go away and bother someone else.
Who, Dingo? Who should I bother, oh wise and great master of the channel?
I don't know, go and bother the guy that made this game, perhaps.
Fine.
It'll keep him occupied for hours, as if game devs actually reply to stuff.
I heard that, and also don't forget to tell everyone that you didn't know where Melbourne was. Okay, bye.
Hey, no, that's fair. And is also a nice segue into the fact that the Outback Survival map is literally a map of Australia. And unlike way too many maps of Australia, this one actually has Tasmania on it, which I really appreciate because I went to school in Tasmania, which is probably why I didn't know where Melbourne was. Which is ridiculous because I've been to Melbourne and I still thought it was on the east coast. That's about as smart as me thinking that a dingo was a marsupial, which is something that would never ever happen. By the way I'm talking about it, you'd think the game was educational. It's not supposed to be. It's a fun romp throughout all of Australia. It's just open world. There are no quests, no main storyline or anything like that to get in the way. The real storyline is survival, just like in real life. There are all kinds of wildlife that you can find in the wilderness: snakes, boars, goats, kangaroos, and yes, dingoes, which keep killing me because I refuse to even attack them, but that's on me for being so precious about my YouTube persona. Big ups to the game dev for using actual dingo audio samples too. You'll notice that I just said game dev and not game devs. That's because this game is written by one guy, a bloke who goes by the name of Slim Waffle. If you get the chance, ask him about his name, but I won't go into it here. This is a big part of the reason that I love indie games, because I have big respect for small dev teams who keep working on products, and you can't get much smaller than one guy. Except for maybe a smaller guy. Look, you know what I mean. Outback Survival is one of the games that actually gets early access right. I don't normally go for early access games, but old matey Slim Waffle still regularly works on the game, and I just have to appreciate that. Now, I do understand that some people might take one look at the footage of this game and be like, oh, those graphics are a bit rough. I like that about the game. This one guy is doing all of this stuff, including 3D modelling, and he's basically using this game to teach himself how to do various things. Australia has always been a tough country to survive in, and that kind of pioneering can-do attitude is the kind of tough Aussie grit that I love to see. And the graphics, including the animations, exemplify that for me. Apart from the gunplay stuff, which is already awesome, I think. Anyway, graphics don't even matter. As I wander through this new Australia, I genuinely enjoy the vibe of playing a game that's set in my home country. Even the only AAA game in the world with a blackfella antagonist, Dead Island, doesn't take place in Australia. While playing Outback Survival, I realised that the gunplay, while still being worked on, is more enjoyable than, say, Fallout 3, which, in turn, makes me wonder, this whole vibe, is this how Americans feel when they play Fallout games? How do Bostonians feel about Fallout 4? It makes me wish that Waffle Soft were larger, so I could have that experience for myself. So I implore everyone to buy this game so that Waffle Soft can become big, so that they can eventually be hired by Bethesda to make Fallout Melbourne so I can play it. And I also implore everyone to buy this game because it's worth the asking price. I have this thing where if I buy a game, it's like I expect an hour of entertainment per dollar paid. For instance, if the game costs $10 Australian, like Outback Survival does, then as long as I get 10 hours, I'm happy. And I've well and truly passed that mark with Outback Survival. As the game keeps getting worked on, it will improve. I normally wouldn't care enough about an unfinished game to make a video about it, but Slim Waffle is still working on it. The game, not the video. That was terrible writing. And his attitude is more one of, join me on my journey if you want to, than,
give me all your money via these loot boxes.
Did I mention that there are no loot boxes or microtransactions in Outback Survival? It's sad that I even have to mention that. And you can always get Outback Survival on sale if you wanted to. Don't, though. Buy it at full price if you can afford it. Come on, bro. It's literally less money than a trip to Macca's. Buy it. buy this game or I will come to your house in the middle of the night and... Because there aren't enough Aussie games out there, so let's show some support for one that is out there, hey? I do wonder, though, if he has plans for multiplayer.
Why don't you ask him yourself?
What, on Steam? I'm not waiting for a response. I know what devs are like.
No, on Discord.
What?
He's on Discord right now, waiting for your interview questions.
What?
You told me to bother him, so I set it up so he'd have to talk to you. Talking to you certainly bothers me.
Dude, I don't just have random interview questions lying around and also get stuffed, Bertrand. I hate you.
Relax, I'll write you some interview questions.
Oh, thanks, Bertrand, and I don't actually hate you, you know?
Stop talking about your feelings, you nerd.
So, looks like we're in for an interview with Slim Waffle. But first, a word from our sponsor. Please note that this episode wasn't actually sponsored by anyone. I'm just doing a bit. Are you tired of dying? Why not build a bed today? Many games, such as Minecraft, allow you to use beds to set your respawn point, and Outback Survival is no different. Look at how easily you can respawn after being killed. With our patented bed respawn system, you can recover from practically any injury. Build a bed today, or tomorrow if you're busy today. I'm not the boss of you. Bam! And your respawn point exists. Please note that not every model works as a respawn point, and you don't respawn with your gear, so you'll have to go back and get it for yourself. Slim Waffle, thanks very much for giving us some of your time so that we can find out more about the game from your point of view. I really appreciate it.
Oh, you're most welcome, mate. Thank you for the interview. It's the first time I've ever been interviewed.
It's the first time I've interviewed someone with voice, so I'm a bit nervous. I hope you are too.
Yeah, definitely.
Very good. In 5 minutes, we won't even know why we were worried.
Yeah.
All right, well, first off, I want to make sure you're a real Australian, so I've got 5 questions for you. Who was the first singer for AC/DC?
Bon Scott.
Correct answer is actually Dave Evans.
Yeah, okay. Interesting fact about AC/DC. My granddad's brother used to play with them before they were famous.
Oh, nice. Second question. How much Vegemite should someone put in a Vegemite sandwich?
Okay, so this one's a good question. I see this all the time, like with Americans testing and stuff, and they do it so wrong. Hugh Jackman did a video on a late night show that describes it perfectly, where you don't like get heaping servings of it. You just like a bit of butter and just lightly coat it.
As my wife says, it's a vegetable extract, not a spread.
Exactly.
Which footy team do you barrack for?
I've never really been big on team sports, but I would have to say the Bulldogs for sure. I've like favored them ever since I was a kid.
Who was Ned Kelly?
Okay, he was basically like Australia's Robin Hood. He was an outlaw and he became kind of like an icon because when he was robbing places, he was also burning off people's debt.
That is a fantastic answer. I also would have accepted Mick Jagger in that movie.
Yeah, okay.
How many times in your life have you ever said, put another shrimp on the barbie?
Not once. As Australians, we don't even call it shrimp.
Just a bit of a side note here, viewers. A bit of director's commentary. The answers to none of those questions mattered because the real Aussie test was, does he have enough of a sense of humour to play along with me? And here are the serious questions. Did you game much as a youngster?
Oh, yeah, man, for sure. I'm old enough to remember playing Prince of Persia on MS-DOS. I think I've owned just about every console there was as a kid. Like the classic GoldenEye on 64. I'm a big gamer.
Yep, fantastic. So what made you decide to write Outback Survival?
Well, basically, I was in uni and I was studying IT, and I kind of knew that I wanted to go in the direction of game development. And I felt like Australians don't get enough love within the gaming industry. So I decided, you know what, I'm going to step away from what everyone else does and just kind of, help promote the country that I love so much.
Yeah, I love it. I think it's a fantastic celebration of Australia.
Thank you.
Is there any reason that you are using the Unreal Engine for the game?
Yeah, so I originally started off in a lesser known engine called Leadworks. I had over 1,000 hours invested in the project, and it was brought to my attention that my work was being limited by this fairly new engine still being worked on. And it was suggested to me that I move over to Unity or Unreal. And because I had already been interested in learning CryEngine with their visual scripting, I moved over to Unreal to take advantage of the blueprint system so that I could kind of feel out that visual programming.
What unforeseen challenges have you faced making Outback Survival?
There's been a lot, man. Like this job, game development, it's something where you're hitting challenges on like a daily basis. I definitely feel like though, like some of the bigger challenges, I guess, would be to do with motivation, lack of funding, a failed launch, and trying to kind of get your name out there while you don't have much resources behind you. It's really tough, man, because like a lot of people have lost faith in the early access system, and it's really hard to try and like restore people's faith while you're building a project.
Yeah, no, I can appreciate that. One of the things that I really do like about the way that you run stuff is that the updates seem to be pretty constant.
Yeah, man. So basically, like the story behind that was when I first started doing the work, obviously, like I've got kids and stuff, I have bills, and I needed funding. And one of the conditions under my funding was basically that I had to have something already on the market to sell. So I pushed out the Leadworks version way earlier than I should have. But then when I started working on the Unreal version, I realized that this worked to my advantage. And I started doing these weekly transparent updates because I felt like it would be a really good way to help kind of restore people's faith in the early access system where they can see the progress and track it.
Yep. No, I can appreciate that. There's a lot of games from AAA companies that are for some reason in early access, and there's no communication from the devs, and that sort of thing really irritates me. So it's good to see an indie like yourself actually putting some effort into that kind of thing.
Thanks, man. I'm the same. I'm a gamer. I hate when I'm following a title and I got to wait 6 months for the next update only to find out that it's been delayed.
Why did you decide to release the game in early access instead of just releasing unfinished garbage like every other game dev out there?
Oh, I had to release before I realistically wanted to. And, as we just discussed, I wanted to kind of restore some faith in the early access. And the other side of that too is, if your company doesn't succeed and you have to start looking for work, do you really want your name attached to something that was just unfinished, never worked on?
That's an excellent point, man, and I'd never even considered that. Like this way, at least you can say that you've done something, like you've got the proof.
Yeah, exactly.
How did you arrive at the $10 price point?
Oh, there was a bit of back and forth and a bit of testing in the very early days of hitting the Steam store. I had originally wanted to go free to play, but after some discussions with Steam, basically it was brought to my attention that in order for me to do this and then put a price tag on at the end of development, I would actually have to pull it from the store and re-put it back onto the store. And I didn't want to do this. I felt like it was deceitful. So what I decided was that rather than increasing the price over time, I would, again, be a little bit more honest because, games are overpriced. I felt like $10, that would be a nice way to keep the price low and affordable, but also help fund future work.
Yeah, no, good one, man. That's a good, I really like that answer.
Thank you.
You provide a wide range of avatars in the game, which is pretty inclusive. Is that why you did it, or is there some other reason?
Oh, basically, I tried adding like the nude character model in at one point, but then I came to the decision, you know what, like this concept of having a nude character in a survival situation is just ludicrous and ridiculous. Like if you're smart enough to survive the end of the world, why wouldn't you have clothes on? Then that got me thinking, and then I was like remembering back to the old days, like, you know, the Mortal Kombats with their character select screens and stuff like that. And I just thought, you know what, like instead of having to craft your own clothes, which is just over the top, I felt like it would work better kind of doing like an homage to those older games and just saying like old school, like let's just pick a character.
What kind of things are you doing to get the word out about the game, like social media or whatever?
Okay, so right now, I got to be honest, I'm not pushing the game the way most other companies are because of the fact that I had to push early, and I kind of felt like I've been playing catch up to get this game to what I feel like is an acceptable point. Rather than going hard out advertising, trying to make money, I've just been kind of giving away keys to YouTubers and Twitch streamers, trying to garner interest with those sorts of people. I feel like that is a better approach to go with that kind of like word of mouth factor. I just feel like though, like at the moment, it's not about money. It's about finishing the project. And fair enough if people want to take interest and promote the game. I love them. Thank you for doing it. But I'm not going to force it down people's throats while I'm still working on it.
Yeah, that's awesome. I really dig that attitude, man. How many man hours would you say that you've put into the game so far?
I'll be honest, man, it's crazy. I couldn't even give you an exact number. Like it's become an obsession for me, and it got so bad that my partner had to step in and say, you know, you can't be working until 2 a.m. You can't be working 7 days straight, 14 days straight. There was a period of time there where I was doing, you know, 16 hours on the regular every day. It's crazy. Like, I don't think people realize too, just like how much time actually goes into a game when it's actually being worked on.
I took one look at the map and I was like, this is handcrafted. Every single square meter of the map in the game. Placed all the trees individually, all the rocks, all that sort of thing. Is that correct?
With the foliage and the grass and stuff, I kind of use like placement tools where I can place, you know, large sections at a time. And then when I'm creating like a point of interest, like with the towns, I'll come back in and, you know, refine it more and go into more detail.
But still the topography, that's all you.
Yeah, man. Like the map, it's not exactly to scale. I did try my best to kind of make it as represent Australia as much as possible. I could do with a bit more tweaking though. You were right when you had commented before though, like Melbourne is just a little bit out from where it actually sits. This was just, the placement was better because I had to flatten the ground out for the houses.
Oh, really? That's what I thought. I assumed it was because it was too close to another city. So that's interesting. How far off of completion would you say that you are? Like, how complete is the game right now?
I got to be honest, man. It's like an obsession with me. I don't know if I'll ever consider it to be completed. But, you know, as far as like planned work and stuff goes, I have most of the traditional survival mechanics fleshed out. And I kind of going to be pushing it in a direction now where I'm going to be focusing a lot on UI and factions gameplay and try and bring it more of those shooter mechanics in. But in terms of how much is actually completed, it's really hard to say, man. Like, I love working on this thing. And if I could generate genuine interest where it's making money, I'll start bringing people in and I'll do what World of Warcraft did, where I'll just work on it for like 10 years straight.
Yeah, awesome. That's a really good answer too, man. So let's imagine that you were able to outsource some work or take some people on. If you only had one person, what would you get them to do and why?
Ooh, I'm going to want to say someone who's really good with animation and modeling. My background is in programming and I can do all that stuff fine. And I feel like having someone to work on those two areas, because that's where I lack, and being able to defer to somebody else's expertise would be great. I think the game could really benefit from having that. but there are quite a lot of unique models within the game. Quite a few that have yet to be used too.
Oh, nice. How do you balance work and family life?
It's hard, man. I'm not even gonna lie. Like it's really hard because it becomes an obsession, the work, man. Like when you love what you do, and don't get me wrong, this is an industry where you can't do it unless you have a genuine obsession or passion, because you'll lose motivation. But sometimes that drive works against you, and I'm really grateful for my partner. She's good at, keeping me grounded in reality and getting me to spend time with everyone. Yeah, she is the driving force behind me being able to balance everything.
You tend to just get in your mode where you like creating stuff and need to be reminded to be sociable.
Yeah, man, for sure. Like I look at some of the stuff like a puzzle, and if I can't work something out, I become obsessed, man. Like I'll sit there for days and days, just like it's a puzzle. I've got to figure it out.
I relate to that so much, man. Do you currently have any plans for multiplayer?
I would love to do multiplayer. I've invested a lot of time though into the single player experience. When it comes to multiplayer, it's going to be a decision that will be financially driven. Basically, I'm going to need money for additional computers to do testing and stuff like that. I'm going to have to spend a lot of time rewriting nearly every piece of code in the game. It is something that I want to do, but I need to make sure the finances are there first.
And the final question, where did the name Waffle Soft come from?
Okay, so that's an easy one. That was to do with my gamer name being Slim Waffle. I thought I'd keep with that waffle theme, and then soft because like software company.
I was expecting this huge long tale of how you, I don't know, like you're like a kid from an orphanage and waffles are the only things that ever made you happy. Okay, well that's all the questions I had for you. I really appreciate your time. Thanks for agreeing to the interview, and best of luck with it. Is there anything that you'd like to say to the viewers?
Just thank you so much to like everybody that has supported this project. It's been a little bit overwhelming, to be honest. Like when I first put it to the store, I didn't expect anybody to buy it, and it's just thousands of people, and I'm just so grateful to everyone getting behind this project and all the feedback that comes in. Like I love you guys for doing this. Thank you so much. Like especially the negative stuff. Like if you find something wrong, please say something, speak up, because I love this stuff. I live for this stuff. You're telling me how to fix this. Like I'm catering to you guys. So thank you for all the support.
Man, I wish more game devs had that attitude.
Yeah, so do I.
All right, well that's it. Thanks again to Slim Waffle for giving us his time. I'd also like to draw special attention to the fact that he didn't mind that I only have like 19 subscribers or whatever. He wasn't like, oh, you're not big enough to be worth my time, like so many other indie devs I've contacted. He was genuinely happy that someone appreciates his work, as you heard for yourselves in that interview. And I want to make it 100% clear that I'm not getting any money for this. I just really like this game, and I think Slim Waffle seems to be a nice bloke, so I want good things for him. Is that so wrong, Internet? Why won't you buy this game? What did it ever do to you? If you like, you can download the game on Steam via the link in the description for this video. Again, I don't benefit from that link. I just genuinely dig the game, and I honestly hope that you do too. Say goodbye, Bertrand.
Goodbye, Bertrand.
Bam! And the dingo's gone.